So I mentioned the program that I work with at Austin Community College. And so I told you that I was going to give you a gift today. Originally, I was going to tell her story, but she's here, and she can tell you her own story. You go to these classes and the networking meetings, and you read books on job hunting, and you take in, or you are given as a gift, a lot of information. And very often people just sit there and they take notes and they write it on their phones and they put it in their journals and they never act on it. They never do it. They say, wow, that's a good idea. That's the end. They don't do it. And so this is a person who took action. She did so many smart things about her job search. And she was not without issues. She was in the 50-plus program. I'm not going to ask her how old she is, but she not only is over 50, and she's a nurse. And so you think, oh, well, of course, she's a nurse. There's lots of jobs for nurses. She'd been out of the workplace for 15 years or longer. So not only is she older, her experience is perhaps obsolete. So she had both of those barriers to get over, and she did a series of very smart things. And she utilized the 50-plus program and what she learned there and the people whom she met there. She came through Job Club. She did resume tweaking here. Every single step along the way, she was so smart about tying all of this together, the things that she was taught and the actions she was taking and how they related to the jobs she was applying for, that she ended up with not one, not two, but I believe 3 job offers. So, Margarita, she's also named after our favorite drink, Margarita Medrano. Come forward.
Hi, my name is Margarita Medrano, but I want you all to know that Margarita is the name of a flower. In English, it's a daisy. But the Margarita got named by a lady named Margaret, an American in Mexico City, and her favorite flower was a margarita, so she put that on the first label of the Margarita mix, and that's how that became. But now everybody says, why would your mother, somebody asked me, why would your mother name you after a drink? And I said, no, she didn't. She named me after one of her favorite flowers. Anyway, I'm also known as Margie, Margarita Medrano, and it's true, I am a nurse, I am bilingual, and everybody that I talked to said, oh, there's a nursing shortage, and you're bilingual, they're gonna snap you up, and they did not. And so I've been looking for about 3 to 4 years. But I think what happened was when I first started, I did it on my own, and I thought, I'm fabulous. I was fabulous 15 years ago. I was the first nurse practitioner in the neonatal ICU in Austin. Now there's nurse practitioners in every neonatal unit. And I thought, I was nominated one of the fabulous 5 nurses in 1996, which means you're one of the 5 top nurses in Austin. And I thought, I'm great. And they're going to snap me up, and I'm bilingual. And they didn't. And so I started doing that, and no response. And then I decided, well, maybe I should do more education. I did this nurse reentry program. If you're out of nursing in Texas for more than 4 years, they want you to do the nurse reentry program. But I had an active license, so I didn't really have to do it, but I did it anyway. So for 6 months, they give you the big fat med-surg book, and you have to read it and take exams in it, do a skills course, and I thought that was good. So I looked for a preceptorship, and which was also part of the program, but you have to find your own preceptorship, and that was really hard. And then I didn't think about who, how do I approach people? How do I get my foot in the door? And so I finally remembered, oh, I have some friends that work in the hospital. I'm going to ask them. And through one of them, I got the preceptorship. And those people really loved that I was bilingual and that I was able to, because of my nurse practitioner education, jump in. But they didn't have any job openings. So I kept applying for jobs, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And I was getting really depressed. And so I did Indeed, where they they look at your resume, they tell you, okay, do this and that really helped. But still, it wasn't, I came to Launchpad to the resume writing thing, where you exchange resumes with other people, and they're looking at your resume and they're going, no, not this, no, not that, no. And you're feeling like, wait, I thought I had a great resume, but they were telling me no, and they were people from other industries. And so then I looked at that, I changed my resume, I looked at every time I looked up a job, I looked at the keywords, and then put skills at the top, like I'm bilingual, I know how to collaborate, all the keywords. But the other thing in nursing, and for all of us, regardless, people want you to have computer skills. So through the AARP 50 Plus program, I have beefed up my computer skills. And I'm doing better now. I'm even on Slack this last couple of weeks because I'm working with a political campaign, and all those young people, they want new apps all the time, and so I had to learn. I'm learning one more. Anyway, so through this program, it's free on the internet. You can take little bites of it if you need to learn Windows, Excel, PowerPoint. And so when you go, and so what happened to me is I couldn't get my foot in the door. I finally got one call from a young recruiter, and I was looking for a community nursing outpatient job, and she told me, I really like your resume, but then she asked me, how long has it been since you worked? And so I had to tell her. And so she said, well, no, we need somebody with 5 years of recent experience. And I said, well, that's exactly why I applied for your entry level job, that you're going to take a graduate nurse. I have experience that they don't have. And she said, no, we need somebody. And I said, okay, well, thank you. So then, the Launchpad resume, I tweaked it one more time. I came to the interview, the Fridays when they do practice interviews, and I learned, they didn't have any, I didn't do it, but I learned from that if you apply for the city jobs, what they're asking for, how you need to prepare, how you need to do the resumes. For this kind of job, you need to do this. So it's very helpful. It's so helpful to have you're listening to somebody being interviewed and how they answer the questions, and they'll tell you, no, you need to answer it like this. So all of those things were very helpful to me. And still, I was putting in my resumes, and I would put it in one day, and by the next day they would tell me that I wasn't being considered. So then I thought, what am I going to do now? So finally I decided, you know what, I can see that this job is on this website. And so it was a school nurse job. I looked at AISD, and I looked for their school health program, and there's a person there, and their email's there. And so I emailed the person, and I said, listen, I'm a nurse, I'm re-entering the workforce after a break, and I've done the nurse re-entry program, I've studied this, I've studied that. On top of that, I just did continuing ed on childhood obesity, on outpatient, and so I listed all the continuing ed that I've been doing, and I said, what I would like from you is for you to tell me what I need to do, what kind of experience I need to get to one day be an AISD school nurse. And immediately she replied, she says, oh, you know what, I'm not the person. But you know what, I sent your resume to somebody else, and I thought, oh, that went into some black hole, and I'll never hear from them again. And so a few days later, I get a call, and they said, we loved your resume, because I attached the resume, including my continuing ed, and she did a phone interview with me. And they're going to ask you they're going to ask you things, and you want to give them some specific examples. And probably a lot of you are computer people, and I am not, but because of everything that I learned at AARP, she said, well, do you know Windows? I said, oh, yes, I've beefed up my skill in Windows. I'm not an expert, but when I learned how to do a hyperlink, I did a lot of activist work while I was unemployed. And I would send newsletters and emails with these long links, and now I know how to do a hyperlink. And for most nurses, they just want you to have like basic stuff. I said, in Excel, I love that you can manipulate your data and create formulas to, find out what you're doing. In PowerPoint, I'm learning how to insert video. So I really love that. And what about electronic medical records? Well, I started doing that when I left 15 years ago, but now almost everybody does it. And I said, well, when I did my preceptorship, they are still on written records. So I thought I'd get some experience there, didn't happen. So what I did, and I said, I think you can tell from my continuing ed, I'm somebody who tries to get the education they need. I went and I found an online program, and I got to learn all the history of how this started, who has the government contracts, and they let you practice being the receptionist, doing the appointments, being the nurse, being the doctor. So I said, I'm not an expert, but I've learned this. So they want specific, I think it helped that I was able to give specific examples of what I did. And so then they asked me to come in for an interview. That same night, a friend texted, she says, are you still looking for a job? One of the nurses in our clinic just quit, and if you're interested, I can have the hiring manager contact you. And she did. So I sent another resume in, and that hiring manager called me and she says, I loved your resume. I'm so impressed by it. It's all that tweaking and retweaking. You should see my files. And for every job, the objective was that specific job and the ID number if possible. And then you go through and you look at the key stuff. So you keep changing it. You have a basic, but you keep changing it. So that really helped. I came in for an interview with her, and she said, you know what, I feel from your resume I don't even have to interview you. And I'm so glad you applied for this job. But I think you'd be really great for this job too, because they're wanting not only to have the nurse in there, but they're trying to retweak their clinic. And she says, from the way that I answered questions, she says, I know that you know process. So I think you would be perfect for it. So I was shocked. And so then a week later, I had the other interview for the school nurse. And the same thing, I did a continuing ed thing on quick facts for school nurses. And so I was able, I think a lot of people think school nurses don't do anything. And I knew from reading this that they do a lot, that they do prevention, they do teaching, we're more inclusive. So the sick kids that I took care of in the NICU are now in schools. So they have to know how to do feedings through the feeding tube, oxygen, manage children with seizures, children with diabetes. And so I said, no, I think that what you're doing is fabulous. I said, and what I think is that the future is uncertain in healthcare. And CHIP just didn't get renewed. And I said, so I think in the future, the school might be where the community gets healthcare, or at least the kids. So it was answering those future questions. But the other thing is that you have to prepare for the interview. And these are all things I learned at the AARP program and talking to Indeed and in Launchpad. So for the interview, I went and I said, okay, I'm going to see if there's any YouTubes on how, the nursing interviews. And I did. I found one, and it was a lady that said, here's 21 questions you're going to get asked in the nurse interview. And she gave us the 21 questions, and so I was pausing and writing them down. But she never gave you the answers. She didn't say how to. So I thought, well, I need to find out how to do this better. And I went in and I found a YouTube, and she's a lady that does, I think, accounting or different things. Her name is Linda Rainier. But she has, like, the answer to, tell me about yourself, what the recruiters are really looking at. And where do you see yourself in 5 years? Who thinks the answer is, I'm going to have your job? Who thinks that that's the answer? It's not. So what Linda says is, you tell them, in the next 6 months to 1 year, I'm going to learn this job and be an expert at it and start figuring out where the efficiencies are, and how we can improve here, and what we do really well that we need to keep doing. In the next 3 to 4 years, I intend to use that as a base and keep refining what we can do in this clinic, make it more efficient, not just for our clients, but for the physicians and the other people that come and work with us in our clinic. And I said, and she says, by the 5th year, you say, now I feel like I can be I just blanked out on the exact word, the person that can be the liaison to the community partners that we have. So it's a much better answer than, I want your job, because that's tried and true and old. So go and look for the answers. And the thing is that I was spending a lot of time, and I told my husband, you know what? You can make yourself a hot dog for dinner. I'm busy doing this, because it's a full-time job, and you really have to prepare. So I got offered all 3 jobs, and that was really almost as difficult as not getting a job, because then I had to decide, and I finally did. But the other thing is there's a lot of ageism, and I could tell that from the recruiter who told me, well, you need to have 5 years of recent experience. And a lot of nursing jobs, you're starting to see that. And to me, that's their signal that we practice ageism. So what's important is to dress to impress. And I was wearing this. And both interviewers, well, one was a group interview and the other said, I really love your presentation. I can tell that you're the right person for this job. So really important. There's a lot of ageism. And so another thing that we learned at AARP is there's things that those of us who are older have to do. Go get a new do if you've had the same do forever. Or get some, like I get low lights. I have a lot more white. And so I had to go get a little bit of black in there, because I love the gray. People tell me that. I don't want to get rid of it completely. You know, for older women and maybe for older men, your eyebrows are the first signal that you're old. So just color them in a little bit. It's really easy. And look up, for women, makeup tips that are going to help you put your best face forward. I hated that, because I teach my daughter, it's not how you look, I want you to be kind, I want you to be smart. But I realized that when I go for a job, that presentation is really important. The other thing that I started doing is I thought, these people think that she hasn't worked in 15 years, she's probably really old, I bet you she's infirm, or, you know, just the idea of an old person and an old nurse. And so I started, people tell me I look a little bit younger than I am, and I'm in my 60s. And so I started including my picture in where I put my name with the cover letter, so people could see that I wasn't maybe what they were envisioning. So I think you have to do all those little things. And then the other thing is, you know, go to the job clubs, network with people, because other people will say, oh, well, you know what, I know somebody who this, and that's how you're going to get your foot in the door. But send a letter of inquiry to a job that you want and ask them, what do I need? I've done all of this, so they can see how fabulous you are. But tell me what else you would recommend, so I could someday work at your company, because I really want to do that. Make sure you look up their mission and values, and you're able to talk about it and how you align with that. All of those things are so, so important. And so to me, it's a full-time job, but finally I'm going to have a full-time job. So anyway, does anybody have any questions for me? I'm going to work, well, the job that she wanted me for was neurosurgery clinic. And I got the AISD school nurse one, and I hated to turn that down. But I'm taking a job in it's a craniofacial facial, vascular defects, plastic reconstructive surgery for pediatrics. These are all pediatric jobs. So now, every day, I had to buy them. So now I'm trying to learn neurosurgery before my job starts. But it's doable. It's doable. You can do it. Don't get discouraged. I was very discouraged. I was getting really like, oh, if I don't get any hits now, I'm going to not apply until after the new year. But keep at it. Keep coming to Launchpad. Keep networking. You're going to meet people here. And I'm not kidding. There was a lady here in the group that I did. Her name is Lindsay Wagner, or I can't remember. Sayer? I can't remember. But she was really good about the resume. And she said, think about adding this, think about adding that. The Indeed person gave me some really good advice. So just look for lots of ways to improve your odds, because that's what it is. You want to keep improving your odds. But, it's not just applying at the jobs. If you can find an email on the internet and you can actually talk to that person, they might not be the right one, but if they're impressed, they might send your stuff to somebody who can help you. And then ultimately I got the job because somebody I knew said, hey, we just got an opening here, would you like to do it? So in the end, I think that's what really helped me, is not the traditional way of getting a job.
Thank you so much for sharing. Another thing that she had told me was that she had a cover letter, and somebody remarked, nobody sends cover letters anymore, and I'm so impressed that you were able to provide additional information, and you come across a little less formally in a cover letter. So she did that. So best of luck. That's exciting. So she learned. Your skills are not quite what they need to be. Improve them. Take whatever classes you need. Get those certifications. Certification costs count a lot more sometimes than an advanced degree, because they're a little bit more real time. They're what companies are looking for right now. And regardless of what career field you're in, everybody needs to be more computer literate, just because that's just a given. But the whole thing about looking up questions, looking up answers, research, and making those continual changes. She also got one-on-one coaching on her resume with a 50-plus person. And as she said, when she took that resume and that cover letter that they worked on together to the company, and they said, really, the interview is just a formality. We already know that we want to hire you. And so it's like what everybody wants to hear, right? We've already made up our minds, and you're the one we want, so let's just go over a few more things. Like, how much money do you But anyway, lots of good advice. It's all out there for you, whether you get resume help with Job Seekers Network, whether you improve your LinkedIn profile with Hire Texas, whether all of the job clubs provide different kinds of information. Go to all of them, network like a banshee, go to professional association meetings, anything you can. And all of you people, they usually advise you to do this at the front desk. Anytime you go to a meeting, put your name and the kind of work you do on your name tag. Not only does it help people identify you with what it is that you do, what you're looking for, but it also is a nice conversation starter, where somebody says, oh, I see you're a project manager, what kinds of projects? I am too. And so it's a conversation starter. But especially if you're at a place where there are recruiters, you're trying to make life easy for them, right? They've got jobs to fill, and they've got a room full of 100 people, and it's so easy if you'll put what you do on your name tag, so that they don't have to just say, yeah, I've got some jobs to fill. What is it that you do? What is it that you do? What is it that you do? It just saves them all that time.